In this video, we're going to look at a story problem that involves some geometry. We've got some rectangles and squares and stuff, so anytime you're doing a story problem that involves geometry, you need to draw a picture. Actually, for all kinds of story problems, it's good to draw pictures, not just geometry, but especially geometry problems. So let's look at this and then see if we can draw a picture that represents what's going on. The length of a rectangle is 4 inches more than its width. If 2 inches are taken from the length and added to the width, the figure becomes a square with an area of 192 square inches. What are the dimensions of the original figure? Can you get a picture of what's going on here? That's kind of important. You really have two shapes happening here. You've got your original shape, your rectangle. So let's see if I can pull up a rectangle here that we can write some stuff on. The length of a rectangle is 4 inches more than its width. So there's my rectangle. I'm going to write some stuff there. If 2 inches are taken from the length and added to the width, the figure becomes a square. So now we've got another figure to deal with, a square. So let's draw a square over here. And we can use that. Alright, let's start labeling stuff now. And let's not be afraid to use variables. This is an algebra problem. So we'll embrace the variable. The length of a rectangle is 4 inches more than its width. Well, what's the width? If I only knew what the width was, I could add 4 to it and get the length. But I don't know the width. So there's my variable. It's going to be W. This is a mistake that people make. They want to use L for their variable because it says the length of a rectangle is, so they want to use L. But they're telling you the length based on the width. The length is 4 inches more than the width. So it's really the width that you wish you knew. Then you could just add 4 to it and you'd have the length. So make the width your variable. Now, the length we know is 4 more than that. So how are we going to write that algebraically? If we know that the width is W, the length is 4 more than that, hopefully you said W plus 4. Or 4 plus W, same thing. Okay, that's good. We've got a good start. Let's look at what happens next. If 2 inches are taken from the length and added to the width. So here's my length. I'm going to take away 2 from that. So let me write that over here. Here's my length. But what did I do? I took away 2 from that. And where does it say that 2 went? Taken from the length and added to the width. So my width, I added those 2 to the width. And the figure becomes a square. Well, it kind of looks that way. I would agree with that because look what happens here. We've got W plus 4 take away 2. Well, if we combine like terms, that just gives us W plus 2. So basically, we've got a length of W plus 2 and a width of W plus 2, and that certainly would be a square because a square has all equal sides. All right, let's see. We need an equation here. What else does it tell us? The figure becomes a square with an area of 192 square inches. That's kind of important. We know the area of that square is 192 inches. This is where we're going to get our equation if we know how to find the area of a square. Hopefully you know how to find the area of a square. Hopefully you're thinking it right now. How do you find the area of a square? Length times width. Hopefully you were thinking that. So W plus 2 times W plus 2 would give me my area. There's your equation. W plus 2 times W plus 2 equals 192. Some of you are thinking, wait a minute, why didn't you use the W plus 4 and the W? Because they didn't tell me what the area of this rectangle was. I used this W plus 4 and this W to figure out the W plus 2 and W plus 2 for the square, which helped me figure out how to write the area of the square as 192. Now, if they would have told me the area of the rectangle, I would have used the W plus 4 and the W. So hopefully that helps you see why we use that for the equation. Okay, now to solve this equation, it looks like we've got a little work to do. The first thing we're going to have to do is FOIL this out. We're going to have to multiply this W plus 2 times W plus 2. So W times W is W squared. W times 2 is 2W. 2 times W is another 2W, and 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, right now, I got an equation. How do I solve an equation? Well, if it's just got W's in it, or X's, I can get the X's on one side, the variables on one side, and the numbers on the other. But when you have a squared pop up in an equation, it makes a totally different kind of solving. Now you got to set that thing equal to 0. and try to factor it, and if it won't factor, then you're going to have to use the quadratic formula. You really need to be able to recognize that, see that squared when you're solving an equation, and think, what does that mean? How do I solve this? So I got to set it equal to 0, combine my like terms, and then I'm going to subtract 192 over to get it equal to 0. Okay, 4 take away 192 is negative 188 equals 0. Now, can I factor this? I'm thinking that it's going to factor, but if it doesn't, I'm going to have to use the quadratic formula. Okay, how can I tell if it factors? Well, it'll factor if, because there's only a 1 in front of this w squared, it's an easier factoring. If I can think of two numbers that multiply to be, let me do this in green over here, kind of off to the side. If I can think of two numbers that can multiply to be negative 188 and add to be 4, then I'll have it. Let's see. You might get out your calculator and start poking around, or pause it and see. I haven't figured this one out yet, so I'm not really sure myself. Let's kind of poke around and see what we can find. 188 divided by 12. Nope, that's not nice. 188 divided by 14. Nope, that's not nice. Let's see. 188 divided by 4 gives me 47. Ooh, 47 is a prime number. 188 is 47 times 4. 47 is prime. You can't break that down. I think we're in trouble here. I think we are going, well, we're not in trouble, but it's not going to be easy. I think we're going to have to use the quadratic formula to solve this. Okay, here we go. We can do it. Let's do it. Quadratic formula is x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we're going to plug in our numbers. I think I'm going to run out of room. Let's start down here. That'll give me a little more room. In this case, it's not x equals, but w equals the opposite of b, negative 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 4 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 188, all over 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. Okay, so that equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 16. Now you've got a minus here and a negative here, so that's going to end up being a plus. 188 times 4 is 752. All over 2. 16 plus 752 is equal to, I can do that, 768 over 2. Now, I'm actually taking this off a multiple choice question from one of my problems, and the answers are given in decimals on this multiple choice, so I'm going to go ahead and figure out the decimal for this. If you wanted an exact answer, you'd have to simplify this square root and pull out perfect squares and reduce it and stuff like that. Now remember, a square root, a quadratic formula gives you two different solutions, one with the negative and one with the positive. If I use the minus, I should have said minus and add, not negative and positive. If I use the minus, negative 4 take away this number is going to be a negative. Divided by 2 is going to be a negative. Now remember, w represents the side of a square. So the negative answer is useless to me. I don't care about that. What I really want is the positive answer, which I'm going to get by doing negative 4 plus the square root of 768 over 2. So let me do that on my calculator, and you should do it too to make sure that you know how to use your calculator properly. Sometimes that can be an issue. So negative 4 plus the square root of 768, get that answer, hit your equal sign, then divide by 2, and I'm going to round to the nearest tenth. Oh my goodness, I'm out of space. Let's get rid of this, and then we'll go up here. Kind of all over the place, but that's okay. So I got 11.9 rounding to the nearest tenth. So that means my width is 11.9, and the question asked me for the dimensions, so that's the width and the length. Remember, the length is 4 more than that, so it would be 15.9, and those are inches. Hope that helps. This was a good problem. It covered a lot of stuff, and hopefully you learned a lot by viewing this video. If you need more help with it or feel like you want to practice it a little more, I would definitely encourage you to try this problem again on your own without looking at the video. Just start the video so you can see the question, and then try the problem all by yourself, and then you can fast forward through the video and see how you did. It's always good to practice this stuff again. Hope that helped.